Operating a business and being successful at it is not as easy as it seems. If you talk to anybody that's been self-employed and has made a go of it, they're going to tell you that there's some pretty common problems that people have. Well, we have a guest today that's Joan De Souza, who's going to talk about a business that she created that helps small business people succeed by sharing information and helping each other by giving tips, encouragement, and joining real relationships. And this is something you want to tune into if you have a business or are thinking about having a business. Stay tuned. Hey, Joan, how are you?
I'm good, Don. How are you?
Good, good. So this is really a privilege for me to have you here because you don't know this about me, but I love people that are in business, that have a passion for business, and you are in an area of your life's work where you're helping other business people, you know, and I don't know if you've read any of the Tim Collins books, Good to Great, Built to Last. A lot of the books talk about the need for mentorship. Mm-hmm. And what I've read, and I've never really participated, unfortunately, too much, is the fact that you could have mentors in a lot of different forms. You know, I've read that, of course, you know, if you're employed someplace, a boss could be a mentor. You could have a family member as a mentor, but you could get mentorship also out of groups and everything. And what you do for people in the Pasadena community is outstanding. So your company is called?
Business for Business.
Okay, and you affectionately call it?
B for B.
B for B, which is cool. So, you know, I just recently started attending the chamber breakfasts and lunches, and your presence there is very known, and everybody knows you because once I started watching B for B, I noticed that most of the people are participating in there. Yeah. I recognize everybody in there. Yeah. So tell me about yourself. I mean, how did you get into doing this for others?
Well, I started off as my career was with the Los Angeles Times. I was the customer service manager for the circulation home delivery department for years, and they offered a package close to the point when Chicago was going to come in and take over the paper. And so I took the package and I did some just fun things that, you know, since being in corporate America for all those years, I decided, you know, let's do something fun. I joined the chamber with one of the businesses that I was doing at the time, and I just found that the small and medium-sized businesses really needed to have a group of people or a business that could help them because they, you know, looking for things to make their business successful, to pivot, and we started this 5 years ago. So then when COVID came, we really became very involved in the pivot category because a lot of these businesses didn't know what to do. And a lot of times the small and medium-sized business has a great idea, but they come in and then now what do I do? Because I have this restaurant, I have this great meal, but that's not the business. So we started off just having a group of people brainstorming. You know, my dad's generation, that's what they did. They didn't have technology, so they sat down with a group of people. And you don't have to have the same background. You just have to have some kind of business sense to be able to help each other. So we started it that way. And then, like I said, when COVID came, we went on Zoom. And Zoom has been a really big benefit because we have people from other cities, other states, and we have 2 international people that join and participate with us. 2 that come in from...
2 from international? Wow.
One from England, and then the one, my sister is from France, and she comes and gives her background and gives her help. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I don't necessarily have that background, but you do because, example, there's a woman that's been in what we call the hot seat. That's the person that's looking for advice, and she's been in the hot seat twice. And she is running a school for young girls that want to learn how to become producers and directors in Hollywood. So on both calls, there was a woman who was giving her a lot of great ideas. And I know what Brenda does, but Dunya didn't. And so at the end of the call, I asked them to stand back and so that she could get to know Brenda a little bit better. I said, Dunya, what do you think Brenda does for a living? And she said, oh my gosh, she's got to be in the film industry. She knows so much and so many people. I can't wait to meet with her one-on-one. I said, okay. I said, Brenda, what do you do for a living? And she paused for a minute. She said, I own a dog daycare. And that's what's great about the B4B calls, is that you bring your life experience, because you're not just an attorney. You like Indian food. There's all sorts of different things that people don't realize that they've done in their life that they can help these people. And the new category of coach is great, business coach, life coach, but they're also very expensive.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very expensive for small to medium-sized businesses. So that's why having this kind of format where it's free to attend, it's free to be in the hot seat. We only ask those that can afford to sponsor a meeting. They pay a certain amount, and they are given 15 minutes to talk about their business, and that's what helps support us. Because we are a nonprofit, and we don't charge anybody for it. Because, people, when I first started, said, "Oh, you have to charge." I said, "No, I don't," because these people need help, and we have to go back to helping each other. And there shouldn't be a dollar sign attached to it.
How often do you have your meetings?
Once a month, fourth Wednesday of every month.
Okay. So I'm just amazed at what you've done, with this. I mean, it really, to give you a little history of my business here in this law practice is that early on, of course, I was searching for answers as to what direction should I be going in, how do I attract customers, how do I deal with my employees. I loaded up on books, which helped a lot.
Right.
And then I got involved in a study group that was among lawyers. And there was a gentleman who ran it, and he charged a fee, and there was kind of a referral system that went on. That only lasted for about a year. Unfortunately, it's ended, and I forget why, but we got so much out of that, as far as like talking and having a little bit of a lesson, and then the referrals and, the camaraderie, and that kind of morphed what I saw is to big organizations now looking for large prices. I had one group, I'm not going to name any names, but, they called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we want to be part of this group," And I'm like, I would love that, because I would love to be able to talk about issues that I don't have an answer for, and other people could help me in one way or the other. Well, how much is that going to cost? Well, it's only going to be like $5,000 a month, And it's like, and how much of that time is it going to be spent? Because a lot of those times to justify those fees, they're going to want to spend, we're going to be at a day, and we're going to be working on this. And so when I saw what you were doing, I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect, because you get people locally that are getting together, people that you probably know if you're part of the Pasadena Chamber, or at least some of those folks,
Right.
and you're comfortable talking and stuff. Yeah. So the one that I just recently viewed was the one on AI.
Oh, right.
So you also have guest speakers that come in and really provide some quality education and stuff. Can you talk to us about how you're able to find those people, and where do you come up with the topics?
Well, the people that are my technology people, and I call them my air traffic controllers. If you listen or watched any of the videos that we do, you'll hear me introduce MJ and Dave as my air traffic controllers, because especially during COVID, where people were trying to hijack some of the calls, they were able to block those people.
Was that happening to you?
It was in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
During COVID. So, but now they just help me with marketing ideas, with technology, and they've been able to, have business come their way because of it, because people see what they do for B4B, and then, they're, going to be able to do it for their business as well. So, and I belong to 4 different chambers to reach out to as many people as possible, because the chambers predominantly are, granted, we have our large corporations, but small, medium-sized businesses, and that's where you want to find them, is in the chambers.
I was going to ask you if you've branched out of Pasadena. You just answered my question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, something like what you're doing now could actually have legs. I mean, you could probably, if you wanted to, and I'm going to probably hear, well, I don't really want to do this, but you could probably grow really, really rapid with your model. Especially since you're not charging for people to go, but they could pay. The way that you have it like that would be very attractive. Again, I'm not going to mention names, but I have a renewal coming up on another networking group, and they've just informed us that they've increased the fees again. And I'm thinking, it's great for networking, but I'm not really learning about how to run a business and stuff. And yours does both of them.
Right. Right. And I belong to a couple of the networking groups as well, and I don't any longer. Again, because financially they just became more and more expensive. And for what? What was I gaining from it? You know, you would go in and you had to give referrals, or you had to expect that referrals came back to you, and that didn't always happen. So I just find that talking to people and just getting to know them and know their business is far more successful than those other businesses.
Yeah, and I think that you may agree with me on this, is that relationship building is key to it, you
Right.
know, and if you're paying a hefty price to be part of a very large group of people that you're going to, you know, maybe have lunch with one time and you never see that person again, that's not building relationships.
Right.
Where the chamber, and then now what you're doing is you really get to know folks and stuff, and
Right.
and you're talking about your problems, right? And there's no better way to get to know somebody than to share like that and to
Right.
give input.
What's interesting too is that every single person, bar none, that have been in what we call the hot seat. They come in. I interview them first, and we spend about an hour together.
Prior to the meeting?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I use my corporate, because that's what I used to do. I interviewed people from my customer service department. So I get to know them as people, and then what it is that they need help with. So when they come on, they've told me that they know what they're going to receive, what information they're going to receive. And every single one of them have said that they have learned totally different information
Wow.
than what they thought they would hear. And so that's really great, because we want them to hear what they thought they were going to receive, but also any new information. And these are from people that 9 times out of 10 don't even belong to the, type of business that they're in. So it's really been great. It's, because you're getting to know the individual, you're getting to know the person, and then the business that they do.
I love the fact that you're getting people prepared for being there,
Right.
because then they're going to get better results, I think, if they have, a kind of a warm up,
Right.
And stuff. You're talking about something that I've been saying to myself for a long time, and that is, since I've joined the chamber, I've learned that it doesn't matter what trade you're in. You could be working you could run a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and talking to a person that runs a law practice, and bring into that conversation a clock repair person. And even though our trades are different, our issues are exactly the same,
Right,
right?
right.
And that's what's fascinating about business. And for me, that's the fun of getting into a small business and running, so long as you learn that you're not, isolated and stuff, So the common issues that you see with people are what?
Right. Well, pre-COVID, I would say that it was just your general business day to day. One of the businesses that actually got me interested in starting this whole thing was called Major Dave's Chicken. They were on Hill, right up the street from PCC.
I heard
Remember
about them. I never got to go there.
So really great chicken, but he came in with his grandmother's recipe, which was really great.
Was he from Kentucky?
I don't remember.
Okay. Anyways,
But anyways,
making me hungry, by the way.
sorry. So he was really great. His wife was really great. They came to chamber. They became chamber members, and they were just really excited about it. But they weren't getting the people to come into the restaurant. Well, they actually ended up closing their business, and I reached out to him afterwards. I said, what happened? And I said, where did the name come from? Major Dave's Chicken. He said, well, I'm a major in the Army. And I thought, why didn't you tell us that before? My son is a chef, and he told me right away, he said, Mom, chicken's a tough, category, because there's how many chicken places, right? But we could have helped him promote him being in the Army, being a major. All the service people would have supported him, and anybody that was connected to a service.
He could have
would
been another
supported
Colonel Sanders.
him. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! I know where that place was, and there used to be lines when they were closing down.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they're no longer.
They're not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So, I think that's the other thing too, is that when you do have people that come in and they're not connected to, let's say the chicken, and they found out that he was a major in the Army, I think that's what triggers people to start thinking outside of the box, and say, well, look, what about this or what about that? And it's really I mean, it's fun to watch the people's faces that are in the hot seat because you can just tell they've got this look like, I never thought of that.
Wow.
Wow, this is really great. Let me take some more notes. And I always encourage them to bring, a friend or somebody in their business on the call with them so that they can take notes along with the person who's in the hot seat takes notes. But I want them to really listen, and then the person that is with them can take notes, and then they can kind of compare notes after the call.
Very substantive,
Yeah.
very meaningful.
Right.
Where did you come up with the idea?
Just because it's going to chamber and hearing the concerns from the small to medium-sized
But you're doing
businesses.
something different than that, though. What you're doing is because the chamber is about networking, and it's great, but you're adding a component where somebody is opening up to a fairly, I guess, a mid-sized group of people and asking for their input, and it's a working meeting in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you come up with that?
Well, I think when you said the word networking, so I don't allow anybody to use that word. We're not
Okay.
networking.
Okay, good.
We're helping the business be successful. So whether that's something that they are concerned their doors are going to close, or they need a new accountant, or they need an attorney, or whatever the case is. So I tell the people that come on the call that they are allowed to put in their business information in the chat. And then I highly recommend that they get together after the call and get to know the person who is in the hot seat, but get to know each other. But don't go to that coffee time or lunch or whatever and push your business card. Get to know the people, and then you'll end up doing business with each other. So
That's awesome. Now I'm starting getting the sense of what motivated you. You came in really as an outreach to people that were suffering, particularly during the COVID era. And I
Right.
think that you've heard me say this at meetings and stuff. But when the businesses were closed down and the streets were empty, I knew that my practice would probably prevail because people need family law attorneys.
Right.
But I looked out the window up and down Lake, and I saw these restaurants that would close forever. And it killed me because when you watch somebody start up a business and you see the dreams and the effort they
Yeah.
put into that, how heartbreaking that would be. So you took it a step further. You just didn't feel. You did something to help people.
Right.
And that's where that's coming from. So now I get, where this idea is. And
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Wow. So the examples of, without naming names, of people that have seen successes from going to your meeting, what type of results have they gotten, specifically?
Well, we're proud to say that every single one of them is still open.
Oh, good.
Every business that has come to us is still open, and we don't stop, or I don't stop with the business, the B4B call. I work with them afterwards too. They can call me at any time and follow up with some information or ask for another contact, and I'll give that to them. You'll hear people joke, and you'll hear it in chamber too. People will say, someone's saying, "Oh, I'm looking for an attorney." Well, ask Joan. I mean, because I do know a lot of people because of over the years of being in networking and chambers and so on. And but it's just really important to me that I be able to give them as much information afterwards. Don't just leave them hanging and saying, "Well, good luck. You were on the hot seat. Now, good luck." So we try and coordinate, meetings with some of the people that were on the call or other people that weren't able to make the call. They want to connect with them. So they are networking, but they're doing it a better way.
Well, I think it's just kind of a natural thing to happen, right? When you got
Yeah.
people that are sharing like that, and it's always been over the internet, Zoom or whatever you're using, right? It's always been that.
Well, no, we were in person. We were in
You were?
person when we first started. We started in person, and but then when COVID came, we went to Zoom because we didn't want to just drop the thing because we knew this was even more important. But nobody was feeling comfortable meeting in person.
So, the discussion that we have to have is how do people become part of B&B? If they're B4B, not B&B. B&B would be like bed and breakfast, right? B4B is okay. So how do people join? Or they have to get invited, I assume. You don't just like join up without being.
Oh no. They get in touch with me, and I add them to the database, and they then start receiving a a monthly invitation to come, and I tell them that join us when you can. There's no commitment, and so they do. And so it's just a matter of getting in touch with me, and then I add them to the database.
And how many people attend usually?
We have anywhere from 40 to 60 people that
Okay.
come.
Do you have a limit?
No, not that we're on Zoom. Even when we're in person, if the room's big enough, we'll take them. So.
Okay. So I'm a little bit inquisitive about the order of how things work, because you talked about the hot seat, and I know that when I went on, and I did, you sent me the link, and I looked at it and watched it. It starts off with, I think it was maybe the hot seat is what was happening, and then you had the presentation of the AI people. So is there a specific format that you abide by in running your meetings, and how long do they last?
Well, so the AI one was totally different. I think I sent you the one with Jerry Price, which was a typical hot seat one. So with a typical B4B hot seat, we have a sponsor who starts off. Well, first of all, we have MJ and Dave give us a little, rules of what they're going to be doing, and that it's going to be moderated. That's me. And then when it comes to suggestions, questions, or comments, they're going to put those words in the chat area. So then all I have to do is look at the chat area instead of moving all the screens trying to find who's got their hand up in the air. So makes it a lot easier. So we start off with a sponsor, and like I said, they pay for 15 minutes to tell us about their business. And we have a practice call the day before, or actually sometimes a week before, and we make sure that Dave typically checks out our audio and our video because we want to look professional. And they make sure that the person that's going to be in the hot seat and the sponsor have the information that they want us to see, whether it's a website or if the slides, whatever the case is. So we do all of that so that when we start up on the day of the hot seat, we're good to go. Everybody looks really great, and we move forward. And then I control the time, and I control the suggestions and so on. So like I said, we start off with a sponsor, and they tell us all about their business and how we can help them. And then the person that was in the hot seat the month before comes on and gives us just kind of a synopsis of what they benefited from
nice.
and how they're moving forward, and if we can help them with anything else. And then the hot seat person speaks. So the sponsor has 15 minutes. The previous has B4B. The hot seat person has anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes to give us a breakdown of how it went for them. And then we give 15 minutes to the current hot seat person, and they tell us about their business, which has been done in the invitation as well. But this time, they're giving a little bit more because it's in person, not in person, but on Zoom. And then once they're finished with that, then there is a first 15-minute period where we mute them, and they're not allowed to speak. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So control. So.
Because you don't want to hear all the, yeah, but I've tried that. I've already done this. You don't want to hear that stuff, right?
Right.
You want them to listen.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And that's what we tell them. We want them to listen. And so when we do that, we shut it down, and MJ's already told them that's when they start putting in the word suggestion and question and so on. So I call on that individual, and then I also control how long they talk, because we can have some of those people go on and on with their suggestions. So after the first 15 minutes, then we unmute them, and we tell them that if there's some information that they want to add to what they told us to begin with, because they may hear something in the questions that I should have said this. So we allow them another 10 minutes to talk about whatever it is that they want to add to it. And then we give them a second 15-minute period, again, where they're muted. And we add more suggestions and comments and questions. And if the question is something that I think they need to answer right away in order for us to move forward, I let them answer it right away. But then I mute them right away after they've answered it. Otherwise, we could be there for a couple of hours. So, but it's usually we're there from 7:30 until 9 o'clock.
Well, that's perfect. It's a good time of the day to start. Mm-hmm. So you get it done. It sounds like you could almost start a college course with what you're doing right now. Yeah. How do you get the topics? Like you came up with AI, so you have these lessons, I assume, every once in a while, or is it every meeting?
So twice a year, and this one was a little different in that we had someone that needed to move and moved her time to be in the hot seat to February, and so it was very close, and it was hard to get everybody else that was in the months following didn't want to move, so we just put a AI in because it's so big right now. But typically we meet twice a year in person, and we have a topic that we allow them to talk about. And again, last January we had a conversation where MJ and Dave talked about it wasn't AI, it was another topic about building their business and the different tools they can use. And we panicked because it was pouring rain. We thought, well, MJ, you and I and Dave will be sitting here. We had 50 people show up.
Wow.
And the other thing that came up, and I was at the membership meeting yesterday, and I don't know if this is something that we want to look at too for chambers, is we decided to make it bring your own lunch. Because we'd done a meeting before where we had to coordinate the lunch. We had to then go pick up all the lunches and bring them to the hotel and so on and so forth. It was just, and what are we there for? Are we there to eat lunch, or are we there to, help each other? So I had so many compliments from people after that meeting saying, oh, this is brilliant. Bring your own lunch. I could bring what I wanted to eat, and I didn't have to pay $35 for something I don't eat. So, it worked out really well. So twice a year we come up with topics that we have heard from either from the different businesses or we know ourselves that, like AI right now is just so big, and we want to try and help them figure it out because it's a topic that really, you're going to use it depending on what your business is. You're going to be different using it than I am, and so on. So we just try and find, and we reach out to them too and say, is there something you'd like to have, someone come in that has a background and can help you experience with these topics that are going to help your business. So.
And you said that you are a member of like 4 different chambers. Mm-hmm. And if I tune into, your meetings, you're going to see people from all of those chambers. It sounds like to me. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Yeah, because I was thinking, as the current chair of the chamber, I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do in Pasadena that's different and stuff? And it seems to me that you got something really innovative that's going on within the group. And I assume that when you're attending these other meetings, you're pushing it like you do in Pasadena and stuff, and it really adds to the chamber. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen if Joan says she's not going to do it anymore?
It's not going to happen.
Okay. Do you get a lot of pleasure out of it?
Oh, I love it. One of the things I love is that I find out things about people like Brenda. I knew she owned a dog daycare. I didn't know she had experience in the film industry, and it was just amazing the people that she knows, big names, and it was just really interesting. And then people at the Pasadena Chamber that give advice, and I think, I've known you for years. I never knew that about you. But I wouldn't, because when you go to a chamber, you go to a networking event, you're promoting your business because that's what's going to bring money to your home, right? But this, you don't have to worry about that. You're just giving suggestions to help somebody else keep their business open and bring money home. So it's just totally different. And what's really great is that we've had even a couple of the CEOs from the chambers. They attend and support B4B, which is really great too.
Wow. And have you had any just brand new businesses, something that just started and they were smart enough to join you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're the ones who get really excited because they think, well, wait a minute. And it's always the question, and it's free? I don't have to pay anything? It's like, so no. I mean, we have to get away from that. I mean, yes, you have to, you're going to run a business, yes, you're going to charge money. But this is something that I could afford to do. Initially, we weren't, receiving grants or, when we came up with the sponsorship idea. But, I did really well at the LA Times. And so it was something that I could do and still be able to support my family. But, make sure that these businesses are going to stay open. It just is crushing to me when I hear people say, oh, well, I may have to close the doors. Like, why? Wait a minute. stop right there. Let's talk about this. And if it's, not an opportunity for them to be in the hot seat, then I get a couple other people together, and 2 or 3 of us will work with them just to find out what they need, how we can help them.
Where do you acquire the passion to help others in business? Because we were just talking in a recent podcast we had that, people can join community organizations in many different ways, and contribute to other people, serve other people, and it's kind of where your passion is. You've got a passion for the small business owner, it sounds like. Where does that come from?
Well, my grandfather was an immigrant from Greece, and he came over and started his own tailor business. Excellent tailor. Oh my goodness. He made the most beautiful men's suits. He was just so talented. And then my dad, so, Grandpa didn't make that much money, but my dad, my grandmother, who also worked in the tailor shop, she really helped push her 3 boys to do the best that they could. And Dad ended up going and graduating from MIT. Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. And but he never forgot where he came from. And he ended up working for hospitals, which, the chemical engineering part of it, just engineering, it really helped him, I think, in that industry. But he always did service. He belonged to the church, the different groups that just gave back. And that's where I learned it, was from my dad. My mom, too. My mom did different groups. Her immigrant background was a little bit farther apart, but my grandfather came straight from Greece over to here.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
You're probably aware of the fact that, I think this is a fact, is I've read that our economy nationwide, locally, probably like 70% of it is small business. Mm-hmm. Did you know that? I mean, it's not the big corporations, it's the small business.
Right.
And you can see that when you drive through any metropolitan area and you see the business districts lined with various things and all that. And I know, coming from kind of a corporate background, I was in the military, then I was in the police department, the DA's office. I wasn't in the business sector, and this fascination with it was, how does it work, and how do people thrive? And I think what people don't know is how hard it really is for
Right.
a lot of people, and how much help they need. The folks that aren't in business assume that everybody's doing well,
Right.
And it's kind of funny, when you look at how many hours it goes into being successful,
Right.
The way that so many people have, and if they don't pay attention and they're not completely dedicated and committed and doing smart things like joining your group, there's a likelihood that they're not going to, make it and stuff, So I really love your passion for that, because I just don't see that enough. I think that everybody's got or not everybody, there's a lot of people that have an attitude towards business owners, and they don't realize that most business owners in America are working really hard, and they're not making the money that people think they are. It's just the satisfaction of creating and helping other people is kind of what small business owners do.
Yeah. And the small business owner, too, a lot of times, just like, with Major Dave's Chicken, he had a great recipe, but that's not the business.
Yeah.
And so when he started to falter, it was just like, well, no, wait a minute, how do I do this? And I think a lot of times that's what happens, is small businesses come in with this great idea, but then they don't have the background to make it successful. So I think there needs to be, more interaction with people like ourselves.
Very much so. Yeah, and it's really the basics. It's like
Right.
anything else. It's like you got to get good at the basics, right?
Right.
There's a book, I don't know if you've read it. It's called E-Myth, and it's also a book on tape. But it's this guy that was around during the dot-com periods where these startup companies were coming in, and he just became kind of a guru. But he talks about Molly and Molly's pies. When you talk about the chicken, it reminds me of this. Molly loved to make pies, and she thought of it as an art, and her family and her neighbors loved her pies, so much so that she started selling them. And people were coming to her house, and she's like, you know what, I got something here. So she started a business, and she got a lot of customers, and she had to start hiring people to help her. And the business grew, but she couldn't make all those pies herself, so she had to teach people to make the pies.
Right.
And guess what? They weren't doing it right. And started receiving customer complaints, and orders weren't being filled. And there was lots and lots of chaos. And Molly ended up making all the pies herself. And you know what she created? It was a horrible job for herself. She didn't have a business. She created a horrible job.
Right.
So that the book starts off with Molly and the pies, and then it talks about the fundamentals of a small business, about how to create organizational charts and how to delegate and the principles of hiring and just basic stuff like that. And I think that what you're doing is you're providing this mentorship for people that could hear it from others and stuff and learn. And if they're receptive, they could really succeed at, and stuff.
Right.
So,
Well, our daughter was in the hot seat because her mother said it would be a good idea she were in the hot seat to be successful because Megan was a scholarship basketball player.
Ooh.
And she then when she finished, but she also knew, though, that she was going to get a degree. And so she ended up getting her master's in clinical psychology. And when she finished, she still wanted to be a part of basketball. So she coached, and she coached from high school all the way up to a Division I university. And the last university, she was the assistant women's basketball coach for Humboldt State. They're now at Cal Poly, but I think it was Humboldt State at the time. So, but she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and so she knew that coaching was not going to be something that was going to work for her. So she came to me and said, well, what do you think about me using, my master's in clinical psychology? And right about that time is when Simone Biles and Michael Phelps said it was okay to talk about, your mental health. So she was in the hot seat saying, okay, how do I move forward? What do I do to make this a business? Because she knew how to be a coach, but she wasn't sure how she was going to run the business. So she is now very successful with a business that helps athletes and coaches with their mental health. And, even something as simple as realizing that she could do all of this on Zoom. And matter of fact, the Division I coaches prefer it that way because then nobody sees them going into a therapist office. They're in their home.
You got to be really proud of her.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, things like that, you just... if you have an idea, I keep telling people, if you're not happy in what you're doing, then think about something that you really love, and can you make it? Can you turn it into a business? And if you can, then let us help you. So
cool. Well, Joan, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking time to come down here and educating me and everybody else that's interested in this great opportunity that you've provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Pasadena Pioneers, and we'll see you next time.